How about Michael? Does anybody hear from Michael? Did you hear from Michael?
No, the only person I heard from was Peter Partington.
Okay, and I just got an email from Jerry, and I know Roosevelt's been ill.
We know Charlie's not coming.
Right, Charlie, Jerry, Peter, and Roosevelt are not coming, that's 4. We gotta hope Mike shows up. Okay, so you know what, let's just start. I don't think we have to,
No voting.
no, we just can't vote.
That's all.
Well, we weren't gonna vote on anything yet today anyway.
Okay.
Michael's here.
Michael's here? Well, there you go. Let's give Michael a hand. Thank you, Michael.
If you only knew what I took to get here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was stranded in Richmond, Virginia, so I just spent 13 hours driving.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So I thought that's why you were applauding.
Good
How many
job.
No,
tickets?
but good job.
Thank you very much. Nothing but some espresso and a couple candy bars can.
Cool.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
Is that because
Then
of the
you came to the
cancellation of
meeting.
all the flights?
Yeah.
I have friends who just 3 days, they can't get back to New York.
Yeah, they were gracious enough to reschedule a flight for me for Thursday.
I'm afraid that's a sign of things to come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably right.
All right, well then, let's get the meeting started. Can we start rolling?
We're on.
Oh, we're on, okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 4th meeting of the Infrastructure Task Force. Can you take the roll, please?
Mr. Angeli? Mr. Grabsky?
Here.
Mr. Cabri?
Here.
Mr. Ladd? Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. Partington? Mr. Walters? Mr. Zeltman?
Here.
And Chair Mamana?
Here.
You have the floor, dear.
Okay, can I have an approval of today's agenda, please? Does anybody move to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved and seconded. Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda, aye?
Aye.
Okay. The minutes of March 7th were distributed. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes of March 7th? Mr. Zeltman, any comments?
No.
None. Hearing no comments on the minutes from March 7th, can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Move to approve.
James moves to approve.
Second.
Second from Ralph. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. General discussion and comments by the committee members. Jackie?
I might be a lone ranger on this, but I feel like a lot of the meetings we have, we get off in these tangents in the beginning, and we spend an awful lot of time talking about stuff. And when it comes to the important things that staff is coming to us to discuss and giving us reports, it's usually at the very end, and we're kind of rushed, and we've spent too much time just chattering. Now, I apologize if you guys disagree with me, but I would much rather have these general comments and these long discussions happen at the end, so the meat of why we're here, we get to discuss early.
I
Point
agree,
well
King
taken.
Wasabi.
Pardon me?
I said, I agree, King Wasabi. You said you're probably gonna be the Long Ranger. That's
Oh,
what
okay.
Tonto used to.
That goes to show how old you are.
I am.
I know, okay. No, I personally, I agree with you. Is it the sense of the meeting that we adjust the agenda to put general discussion, comments, perhaps not at the absolute end, but certainly after new business?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be after the staff reports, because I think that we all get kind of burned out towards the end, because there's so much, maybe I'm just talking about myself, but I feel like towards the end of the meeting, we're just kind of burned out. We've been here a couple hours, and now when staff is here to talk about the meat of some important things and we've asked them to present, I think I've beaten this to death.
No, but I
you know
think
how
it's
feel.
I think it's a very good point, and I would note that, we haven't gotten to Public Works update for months. And they were actually called me and said, can we take this off the agenda? And I said, no, we should be doing that. We should be doing the update.
So we should
side.
move that
We should
up.
move that up. Okay, so why don't would you like to make a motion to that effect, Jackie?
Okay, I'd like to move that we change our agenda in the process and put general discussion and comments by committee members at the end of the agenda, almost like for the good of the city type stuff, okay? And that way, we're not gonna get off on tangents, well, you know why. That's my motion.
Excellent, so at the end of the agenda then, that's the motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
James seconds, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, but for today, we'll do general discussions, because it's
Really?
on, yeah,
I
because
have
I
to leave
have
at
a quickie.
3:30, so,
I just have a quickie, and this will be, I could probably fit it in someplace else, but tomorrow night on, actually, can I just make a suggestion before we go forward? We have several members of the staff here today, and I think we should really make a point of introducing the staff members who are here. So can we start over here?
Sure. Chris Bennett, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Okay,
Filling in, I guess you could say, for Alan for today.
got it.
where are you from, Chris?
Well, originally or previous
Oh,
job?
previous.
I was in Miami for the last 3.5 years, city of Miami.
Oh, good. You live up here?
Yes, actually Coconut Creek area.
Oh, good.
No
That'd
more
be less of a
commutes,
commute.
yay!
At least a lot shorter for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and?
Welcome.
And you're new to the city, right?
New returning to
Yeah,
the city.
she's
3.5 years in Miami, and then before that, 4.5 years before.
Okay, so you've been here before?
Yes.
We seem to rotate between Miami. We
You-
rotate everybody.
You and Alan have something in common.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, so,
Also from Miami, Suleiman Kuitani. I'm the program manager for the AMI project and the water consent order
excellent.
for the public waters department.
Oh, you are a very important man. Okay, good person to. And can we have Jill just introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Jill Prisley, Chief Engineer with Public Works Engineering, and I'm not from Miami. I live in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, and in the back we have Karen. Karen, you wanna just say hello?
Visiting guest, Karen Warfel, I'm the city's transportation planning manager.
Thank you very much.
You can come to
Okay.
the table if you want, dear.
Yeah, we get to, we're informal here.
Come on.
Back here is Assistant City Attorney Dwayne Spence.
And you
You
can come to the table too.
D. Wade. You didn't want to come to the table.
Okay, so, do we have anybody signed up for public comments, so we don't have to go with that? Is anybody signed up from the public?
No.
Fantastic. Old business. All right, City Attorney's Office, is here to talk with us about sunshine laws and committee communications. Take it away.
Yes.
Is this the presentation you made to P and Z?
No, this is more abbreviated.
Okay.
P and Z is quasi-judicial, so I guess it's different.
Yeah.
Thought about it, but then I read your minutes and realized that you didn't want all that stuff involved with that, and just kind of concentrating on sunshine law. So good afternoon again, my name is Dwayne Spence, I'm the Assistant City Attorney. Been here a number of years, board certified and local city, county, and local government law. And do this presentation, well, I do a longer version of this presentation to the board and committee members and the better meetings academy that we put on with the clerk's office. We usually hold that annually in April. COVID has put a setback on that and recent change in administration. But the clerk's office has postponed it, but we're looking at scheduling sometime in the future. We encourage members to consider participating. Member Walters is a long-term, a regular feature in those meetings. So we're going to discuss government in the sunshine. Our Constitution provides that all meetings of any collegial public body of the executive branch of state government or any collegial public body of a county, municipality, school board, or special district at which official actions are being taken or at which public business of such body is being transacted or discussed shall be open and noticed to the public. So it's in our Constitution. We kind of hold this in high regard, similar to how folks in the federal government hold like your First Amendment rights and so forth. This right is to the general public to be a part of the decision-making process, to witness it, to be present, to have notice of it. That language is also incorporated in the state statute, which and slightly different, which provides that all meetings of any public, any board or commission of the state agency or authority, or any agency or authority of the county, municipal corporation, or public subdivision, or political subdivision, except as otherwise provided in the Constitution, including meetings with or attended by any person elected to such board or commission, but who has not taken office, at which official acts are being taken are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times. So the three basic requirements of the Sunshine Law are that the meetings of the public board or commission be open to the public, that reasonable notice of such meeting must be given, that minutes of the meeting must be taken and promptly recorded. So all of the Sunshine meetings, in order to meet the requirements of the Sunshine Law, must have these three components: that the meeting is open to the public, reasonably noticed, minutes are taken of the meeting. The Sunshine Law requirements are applied to advisory board and committees, members who are delegated decision-making authority, advisory committees appointed by a single public official. The Sunshine Law does not apply to strictly information gathering meetings or fact-finding meetings or staff committees without decision-making responsibility.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Advisory boards and committees delegated decision-making authority.
And we'll go into that right now.
Okay, we don't make decisions.
Yes, you do.
We do.
Recommendations are decisions.
Oh, well, there you go.
So the Florida Supreme Court in this case has concluded that the committee serves as an alter ego of the council in making tentative decisions, stated that any committee established by the town council to act in any type of advisory capacity will be subject to provisions of the government and the Sunshine Law. So even though you're making a recommendation as an advisory board, those recommendations are considered a part of the total decision-making process and a tentative decision, and therefore you are subject to the Sunshine Law. As such, as members of this board, any gathering, whether formal or casual, between two or more members of the same board or committee to discuss some matter which foreseeable action will be taken by the board or commission.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you define, this may be the next slide, how do you define foreseeable action?
The term foreseeable itself is not defined, but it is an action that you will likely take action upon or could possibly take action upon.
How do you know? How do
You
you
know
know what
based
could
upon-
possibly, wait a minute, let me
Sure.
finish. How do you know what could possibly come before you? Because let's just say, I don't know, I can give you an example relative to this. What if something happens to some infrastructure thing and we have to make a recommendation to the commission on how to act on it, but we didn't know it was gonna happen? So anything related to infrastructure that could foreseeably possibly go wrong?
Anything that foreseeably falls within the purpose and duties as outlined in your enabling legislation.
Okay, well, that's a good definition, so we have to look to our mission statement.
Correct.
And our mission statement says we have to advise them on absolutely almost everything to do
The
with infrastructure.
the resolution has specifically 5 items in which you address.
Okay,
And we
so-
can, they're part of the slide presentation
I'm
as well,
sorry,
we can
I'm
go
sorry.
over those.
just let the man
Um,
continue.
Okay, so any gathering, so it can be informal. A lot of folks don't understand what a meeting constitutes. It's not, this setting is not just, it's a meeting, this is a meeting, but a conversation between 2 board members on an item that would foreseeably come before this board is considered a meeting under the Sunshine Law and is a violation of the Sunshine Law.
I got another question. So Jackie and I go out to lunch.
Where are we going?
And we
Big
don't
talker.
talk about anything having to do with infrastructure, right? We're okay.
Mhm.
But the minute I say, Jackie, what do you think about that
Infrastructure?
infrastructure, we're in trouble.
Potentially, depending upon, if it's, hey, what do you think about infrastructure? I think that's something we should bring up at our board meeting, and yes, there's a problem.
Okay. So as long as we don't talk about anything, we're good. James?
Regarding the idea about foreseeable action, so what if the team has made a decision, they've given their recommendation, it's been moved forward, they're done with it? And I go to lunch with Ralph,
Ralph, is that
finished
gonna
it.
happen?
and we bring it up, and we talk about it.
So you engage the risk of the item coming back to you as foreseeable. So subject matter of this committee.
No, the decision is done, it's not gonna come back.
I've been here about 12 years, and a
They
lot of
always come
decisions
back.
aren't just done. They come back. And so the question for you is whether or not it's within the scope, excuse me, whether it's in the scope of the committee's responsibilities, purpose, and duties. As long as you are a member of this committee, you should refrain from having any discussions on items that would foreseeably come before this board.
Okay, so that's in the circumstance where Ralph and I go out to lunch together. And when it comes up, you're saying we shouldn't do it, we shouldn't have that conversation. Even though the decision by the committee is already done, baked, passed on to the city commissioner, whoever we made our recommendation to.
Standard is if it will foreseeably come before the board. You're making a judgment call that it will not, and what we're advising you is that if it's within the purpose and duties of your board, it can foreseeably come before your board. Then you're on notice based on the resolution that provides your purpose and duties that these items will come before this board.
Okay. I disagree, but okay, let's go on.
Go ahead and take your chances, Jim.
Let's
See
go
you in
on.
jail.
I was more interested about two members of the committee at a commission meeting.
Well, that's coming up, we'll talk about that.
All right.
The Attorney General's opinion advised that if more than one commissioner is in attendance of a meeting, and that's a meeting of another board or committee, the exact question that you're raising, that no discussion or debate may take place among the commissioners on those issues. That's Attorney General Opinion 2000-68, and also Attorney General Opinion 98-76. However, the city commission in attendance may not engage in discussion or debate amongst themselves because the city commission's discussion and deliberations on the proposed ordinance must occur during a duly noticed city commission meeting.
So I have another question.
And so,
Well, the
I'll
mayor
get-
comes.
I'll get
It's
to you.
it's a different question. Trust me. The mayor came here several times to discuss infrastructure
Mhm.
and to discuss with us infrastructure issues and ask us to do certain things. Was he in violation of sunshine?
Not at all.
Okay,
By
because it
himself.
was only one guy.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So in sum, this is the summation of the Attorney General's opinion. It says, in sum, it's my opinion that it is not a violation of the Sunshine Law for an elected city commissioner or for elected city commissioners to attend other city board meetings and comment on agenda items that may subsequently come before the commission for final action. However, the city commissioners in attendance at such meetings may not engage in a discussion or debate about those issues amongst themselves.
Okay,
Everybody
so if
knows
you
that.
back up to the slide that you just had, so you can't have a discussion, it says no discussion or debate may take place among the commissioners on those issues, but can you comment?
One member can comment. The second member that comes up to comment on the same item creates the violation of the sunshine law.
What is the violation then?
Two or more members having a meeting outside of the
It's-
sunshine.
But there's two or more
Outside
committee
the
members,
sunshine.
not commissioners.
It's not
We're talking
outside
right now about
sunshine if
commissioners.
the meeting's being recorded and
This
it's
has been
public
the law
notice.
It is not a meeting of the infrastructure task force.
That's the point.
That is,
That's the point. So in order for two members to go and comment at the city commission meeting, the infrastructure task force would have had to notice the meeting and take minutes?
it would have to have been a noticed meeting of the infrastructure task force.
But it's a city commission meeting,
That
it's
is correct.
publicly
It is the
recorded.
It's a city commission meeting. It is a sunshine meeting for the city commission. It is not a sunshine
Oh my
meeting for
God.
the infrastructure task force.
So you're saying that the general public
But it's
was
always
denied
correct.
the opportunity to know that
They
two
have no notice.
members of the infrastructure task force were in the room together commenting on something?
That's correct.
Wow.
Irrespective if they both identify themselves as a member of Infrastructure Task Force Committee, but say they're not here in that regard, but rather in a public nature, in other words, for a neighborhood
Association.
So there were tons of agenda items on that agenda that you can comment and not even identify yourselves as members of the infrastructure task force. where the sunshine law violation occurs is when you speak on an item that involves the direct purpose of this board or committee. That's where the violation occurs. So
I see that.
it would work if the items were not under the purpose and duties of this particular committee. But when it reaches to that state of an item that would foreseeably come before this board, then you are in violation.
So then we get back to the foreseeable. I mean, if the committee meets, does their job, comments, passes that on to the city commissioner and the mayor, we're done. It isn't going to come back. So it's not gonna be foreseeable. Now, you say you've been around a long time and things come back. I'm saying they're not gonna come back and ask us to do what we did back in February. They're not gonna do it.
I mean, I won't argue the point. I'm just telling you what the law is. I'll advise you of.
Well, I think this is an interpretation of the law. It's not what the law
No,
says.
it's not an interpretation of the law. It's what the law says. And I'm gonna advise you of the penalties of the law. And it is your personal violations of the law. But the only bad thing about the sunshine law is that it becomes a violation of the two board members. So, the first person who goes up and speaks, they're in declare. And then the second member that comes up creates a violation between the two of you. So, I mean, I can only advise. I tell staff that all the time. I tell the commissioners that all the time. I simply advise.
Well, let me ask you a question on interpretation, because I think that's an important perspective to look at. Are all the city attorneys for all the cities in South Florida interpreting it in this very strict, narrow way? In other words, if I was in Pompano Beach, would I get the same advice from the city attorney in Pompano Beach?
I wouldn't know that, so we all rely on.
That was a rhetorical question.
No, we all rely on Florida Attorney General opinions. I could, maybe I should have pulled the full opinions out and provided for you, extra reading.
No.
I think, or maybe I'll send it
And
to the
this
board members.
is not adversarial. This is just
Oh, I
because
don't view it as
we
adversary. I've been
feel-
doing this for
I
over
know,
10 years,
right.
and I always get the pushback on the sunshine law because it's such an inflexible law, and folks that, volunteer and want to do good for the city always are surprised at basically the handcuffs that they have in trying to do their civic duty. And I'm sympathetic to it, even though it may not sound that way, because I'm just saying this is what the law is.
So basically, in my position, I'm a director on a neighborhood association. Because I'm a infrastructure task force advisory committee member, I give up my ability, to speak on that particular same subject, because there is that.
You don't.
You don't give it up.
You don't give it up.
Only if
Only
someone
if I
else is
show
gonna
up,
talk.
or Marilyn shows up.
No, I mean, you could still communicate
speaks.
with your commissioners outside of the public meeting. You can still communicate at the public meeting. It's just
I just
like
can't do
that
it, I just can't do it
precipitated
in a
this.
public
What happened
meeting.
is, I believe you were the first speaker
Right.
that night, and the second speaker came up, and the city attorney interjected
Right.
to
Was that
to
meeting where you
caution.
had to not talk?
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
that's what will occur is
And
we'll
there
take
is a lot
note
of
of the
that's-
members that
yeah.
speak and we'll advise.
Right, so you actually saved them from doing
A
something
violation,
bad.
correct.
That was very kind of you. But
Well, it's the city.
Well, I don't know if I felt that way that
You
night.
didn't feel that, but it was
We're aware
true.
of that. I mean, it's always difficult to do that
Right.
during the meeting.
So can I go back to an issue where Ralph is at a community meeting? I go to my community meetings all the time, and they ask me, how about that infrastructure? How about the Mets? What's going on with infrastructure? And I speak about it.
Right.
But that shouldn't be a problem,
No,
That's
it's
not a
not.
problem. That's not-
because it's,
Absolutely not.
you.
because it's just me, or because that's not a public meeting?
Because it's just you.
Just me, but if we both go to that meeting, we can't do that.
I can go and listen, I just can't speak.
Correct.
Ah, okay, you can,
That's, yeah.
all right.
Correct. When you,
That's why I
the
don't participate
issue
in a
is
lot
the
of your
discussion
Lauderdale
between
I
board
know,
members.
okay, no, that
of items that
you're
will
right about
foreseeably
that,
come
that's
before.
not good for you.
I stay as far away from it as
That's not
possible.
good for you, yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah, so we went over this already, that the city commissioner in attendance at such meeting may not engage in discussion debate about these issues amongst themselves. And just to reiterate, the Sunshine Law does not establish a lesser standard for members of advisory committees that are subject to the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law equally binds all members of the governing bodies be they advisory committee members or elected officials. You are held to the same standards as the city commissioners.
Okay, well, I thought it was a lesser standard, but I guess I was wrong.
So the consequences for violating the Sunshine Law, there is a criminal penalty for a knowing violation of the Sunshine Law. It's a misdemeanor of the second degree, 60 days imprisonment and or fines up to $500. Possible removal from office. Non-criminal infractions may include fines not to exceed $500. Attorney fees assessed against the board or committee members. Civil actions for injunctive or declaratory relief. And this is important, the validity of the action taken in violation of the Sunshine is not valid. If there is found to be a Sunshine Law violation, the action itself taken would be kind of void.
Oh,
Do
It
I-
requires subsequent corrective action.
I have another question. So we go to the city commission meeting and
It's your turn next time. Speak
And
first.
I've been asked though on behalf of the committee to speak. So I'm gonna be up there representing the committee.
So you said something very important there. If the committee asked a member to speak on their behalf, you become a infrastructure board of one and an extension of that, and liaison, we need to make sure that's noted on that particular item, that a member of the committee will be speaking on that item.
But then could Ralph come up and speak at the same meeting?
No.
Okay.
Oh, let me talk about that a minute again. I intend to go to the commission meeting tomorrow night.
Mhm.
And at the pleasure of the committee, after we discuss it, go and support an item on the city commission agenda. Who noticed that? Nobody noticed that.
We can-
No, because I just saw the agenda, we're just gonna talk, can I do that? Oh, I stumped you, I love it.
No, it's not stumping, I'm trying
You gotta
to,
think.
I'm trying
What's the agenda?
to.
I'm not talking about it.
So what is advised is that if you're delegated any authority by this board, that you become a committee of one and subject to sunshine. Under those circumstances, you would not be able to do so without notice. The question is, for me, I would parse here and say that if the board allows you to speak on their behalf, but does not put you in a position to negotiate on both behalf of the board, then you would be fine.
Okay, so
In
just.
other words, you can't make a unilateral decision on behalf of the board in the action.
Only what they instructed me to say or comment on.
Correct.
Well, that makes sense, that makes sense.
Kind of makes you wonder if committees and boards ought to get themselves a liability insurance
Okay, don't go
policy.
there, please, please, please.
He is our liability insurance.
He's protecting us.
He's protecting us. Okay, well, that's, okay.
And you probably know this already from your resolution, resolution 20-30, which that was the amendment to add we'll get to that. So the responsibility of this committee is to review existing city infrastructure, including but not limited to roads, sidewalks, airports, seawalls, water and wastewater distribution and collection system, treatment plants, well fields, parks, and all city facilities and structures, and examine their current conditions. And to
I'm sorry, is that first purpose right here, is that fact finding only?
It's not.
There's decision making in that? That aren't just purely facts?
Interesting in how, depending upon how you approach it. So if you are eliminating any options for the commission, that it goes beyond mere fact finding or information gathering. So if you're compiling information and you kind of data dump to them, it's not a decision-making function, but the moment that you make a recommendation or you eliminate options from their consideration, you've gone beyond merely
So if there was like an RFP, like with wastewater plant and whatnot, and we were to evaluate proposals and rank them,
Mhm.
that would be
Decision
something
making.
that would be a tentative decision making anyway.
Correct.
But just reporting on, like, what's the state of infrastructure? I mean, those are just facts, right?
Those are just facts.
You're
As long
assuming
as
we know
you're,
that?
not eliminating other facts from their consideration.
So people outside, like if they were having lunch together, they could talk about, like, what's the average daily traffic volumes on Broward?
Sure.
Or they could talk about Miami infrastructure projects,
Sure.
and like what other cities are doing.
National trends, things like that, we could talk about that. Put that on the menu.
Just one footnote here, when I joined in at the inception of this task force committee, advisory committee, I was allowed to go do inspections of like the police headquarters, 5-ash water treatment plant, even the Lomar wastewater treatment plant. And now, I'm wanting to go back and look at something, or even in, they say, I don't like to use the word inspect, but go observe the conditions at structures, buildings, plants. City came across and told me I can't do that, which really, to me, I was about ready to say, okay, I can't do that, there's no reason to keep me here, because that's my forte as an engineer, structurally and, water and sanitary and et cetera. That's been bugging me, to be honest with you, because I was ready to say, okay, they don't want me, and even criticize me for doing a report on a structural thing, not directly to the Miami unfortunate incident. But, am I getting too sensitive on this, or have they defeated the purpose of my being here?
I don't know if I have enough information about those specific circumstances, and I know that's very lawyerly answered, but I don't. I'd have to find out more, but if it's, that particular activity. And I mean, the intent was to bring this information back to the committee, or are you thinking that by virtue of being on the committee, you should be allowed to just do your individual inspections and provide?
Well, I'd given it for an example, I did a walkthrough at the 5-ash water treatment plant, and I gave it to the director who's no longer with the city. I told them that this needs to be conveyed to the mayor and commission, because it gives them vital information on the condition of their, the 1954 old water treatment plant, and didn't give it. So about 6 months later, I did. I sent it to the mayor and the commission, city manager, et cetera, saying this was my findings, this is my report that I submitted to Public Works, and for their information.
So that sounds like an issue for as a private citizen. It's not something that
You didn't do it.
directly relates to your function here on the board.
So I'm not going to be taken out in handcuffs today. But I was more concerned about, was my rights kind of hampered in trying to do the job that I've been appointed to?
Well, see, the facts and circumstances that you're speaking about, as always, you're speaking about doing something as an individual that have nothing related to the board or the board's function.
And I wasn't advising that these are the corrective measures. I just pointed out that these were the problem issues, safety, health, whatever the case may be, pointed it out. There may have been some area that it might have been close to a security type of thing, where somebody say, oh, this is that, but I mean, it's basically public knowledge on
But
that
Ralph,
issue.
you never represented in the presentation of that material that you were speaking for the committee. You were
No.
speaking as a
As
private
an
individual.
as an engineer,
It's
or
not-
retired
I don't-
engineer.
that's not an issue.
No, it's not.
Just wanted to touch back, go revert back to the scenario that you spoke about earlier before, and just give one caveat. So it's check out that infrastructure over there. I think I'm gonna bring it to the board, and then the other member says, no, you shouldn't bring it to the board.
That's a decision. That's a sunshine violation.
I just wanted to make sure that distinction.
Right,
So I
right,
mean, I
right.
think it's-
What should we do about this is more of a decision-making
This whole-
function, whether
this whole
it
vetting
becomes an agenda
outside
item, and
of
if it does become an agenda item, what do we do?
You just don't, I mean, you just don't want to be accused of that.
Okay, so in number one, we determined, number one, providing information is not a violation of sunshine. But when you see it in relationship to number two,
Right.
review and identify. If we're gonna review and identify, we're gonna review and identify for somebody. Okay, so even number one, when you can say, well, that's just fact finding, when you put number one together with number two, then clearly everything we do here is a sunshine situation. I would think, wouldn't you?
I mean, you can't, you can convert what would otherwise be a non-sunshine situation into a sunshine situation just by virtue of the fact that, I mean, because you may give some recommendations on repair options,
Right.
means you can no longer, I mean, that's what, I really clarify for everyone, means you can no longer do what would otherwise be allowable.
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying if we just present information.
Yeah, that's a question, actually, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The question is, the determining factor is whether or not you're in a discussion and deliberation within the decision-making process. So,
Right.
so
So if you're out talking just about facts,
So-
then you're not in a decision-making process. If the two of you
and
are
I
sitting
don't
down.
wanna parse here, your line of questioning is on the right track, but it's something that we would caution against just because of how the sunshine
Totally get it.
law
I'm just trying to help, like,
is, right. No, I
I
understand.
didn't want to like sort of be able to parse through this.
Yeah, well,
Understand, so I'm, you know, we're kind of on the same page and I can articulate that, but I don't want it to be misinterpreted and applied to other circumstances.
Doesn't mean you won't have to
and
litigate
be-
it, right?
Be the source of, yeah, I'm not in violation because
Wayne said.
D. Wayne said.
Right.
Right. No, I'm not
No,
doing that.
but following up on what you just said, we go to lunch and we talk about infrastructure issues in Miami,
We
okay?
never go to lunch, just for.
I know, it's just for the record, very rarely, okay. And we talk about Miami infrastructure or trends in America and infrastructure and I read an article about water treatment plants
It's not a
as
sunshine
RFPs.
violation.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
Until,
If we then come back here and have to make a recommendation about something that you and I have talked about is as a general information issue.
did you discuss that recommendation before?
If you did,
No,
if you
we
had,
talk.
if you know,
I got a better idea. We go to lunch, okay? And Ralph and I discuss a number of articles that have been written in the national press about the pros and cons of
P3s.
P3s, especially in relationship to water treatment plants. We don't talk about our water treatment plant, but we all read these articles and there's pluses and minuses. Then we come back and we have to give a recommendation on should there be a water treatment plant RFP. Gosh,
But you do that in the
That's a
public
total
hearing,
violation.
you discuss that recommendation in the hearing, right?
here,
Yeah, that's
but
what
can,
you're
but
supposed to
can
do.
we discuss it at that meeting in lunch?
the way you described it, it
Because you
sounds like
guys
you
were
were
not,
collaborating.
you guys were not part of the discussion, and the public was not a part of our discussion about P3s in general.
So I
Now we
think that
come
if
back-
you just talk about what an article says,
Yeah,
right? I mean, that article is not a public record. It's an article about something happened in Jacksonville, and you're discussing that article, right?
Mhm.
But if you start discussing, well, we should do that, right? We start saying, oh, now you're getting into that decision-making discussion, right?
yeah, but if we come back to the meeting and say, guys, we've read all these articles, okay,
And
about
then
why
bring
it's
up-
good or
bring it up
bad.
in the meeting.
I should have said, I read. But then we'd have to share those articles with you all at a public meeting in order for them to be of any
Right, for
relationship
background.
to the decision making. But if we had this discussion and I know in my head that this is a bad idea because we had this discussion, and then we come here and take a position,
Well, see,
that's a problem.
well, yeah, that's the issue. So that discussion that you had that already have you formulating thoughts as to whether or not to oppose this recommended method or support it
Right.
is problematic, because that's the type of discussion that needs to be out in the public. The public needs to be a part of that process.
But if we took all of that information that we talked about, which was fine, because we were just talking, and we brought it here
Applied it to.
and applied it to and made everybody aware of, then we'd be okay, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, so I had this
That's the point
very
of public hearing.
similar, very similar thing when I first joined the city and started doing this task. The Sustainability Advisory Committee at the time was very active and wanted to share articles, and they wanted to have a website where they exchange documents. And the issue for me was this trading off of ideas behind the scenes with warning documents.
Right.
So what we were advising them is, you have to consider it just like as a complete data dump. The information can be shared, and then it comes here to be discussed. You don't discuss the information
Back and
for it, correct?
Okay, yes.
One more question, Dwayne. So I represent my neighborhood association at the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. Marilyn represents hers, and the discussion is about seawalls. Do we not talk? Do we
Do we have to leave
That's
the
the
have to
meeting?
leave the meeting? What do
We have
we?
You don't have to leave the meeting, but one or both can't comment on comment or participate in that discussion about it.
One can, but not two.
Correct.
Wow.
So in such a case, you can present a letter from your association. I mean, you can discuss it all you'd like with your individual associations, but at the council, particularly if it's foreseeably going to come before the infrastructure task force,
I have to keep that in mind. But the council, let me ask you a question about that. The council and our civic associations and or other, Lauderdale Tomorrow, for instance, they are not subject to sunshine, because
They are
they're
not.
just not nonprofit groups.
correct.
So it's not a question of whether they're nonprofit, it's a question of whether we, as members of this
That
group,
is correct.
And that's the
Okay.
problem that's going on.
okay,
With
well,
a
it's
lot of
good that we
people that are
clear this
getting-
up.
They're very active in all these situations,
We
but
gotta
they've
clear
got
this
other
up.
responsibilities within the city, and there's.
Let me ask you a question then. If all of those people, if all of these discussions are going on, and let's say we're discussing and that, can I recuse myself from the discussion?
Yes.
So
Oh,
if
you
we,
mean here or
Here.
at that doesn't solve the issue is that
What
what
happens
is
there?
considered a meeting under sunshine is occurring at the Council of Civic Associations.
no, but that's not occurring at the sunshine, because they're not sunshine, but I'm subject to sunshine. In other words, the meeting isn't subject to sunshine, but I'm subject to sunshine
As is the
by
other member
virtue-
who's attending
by
that.
You're not,
virtue of
you're
this.
not,
Converting
you're
it.
not subject to sunshine unless someone else from this committee is there.
That is correct. So there's two of us there, so that
Correct.
puts immediately both of us
No,
subject to sunshine.
if only one
Correct.
Right,
speaks,
we
you're
could
fine.
make a deal and only one can speak, but the two
Now
of us
that's a
can't speak.
violation of sunshine.
Probably.
Am I right to make a deal? I mean, Jesus.
No, because you're not, whether or not you're gonna speak on an item is not foreseeably coming before this board for decision, so
Okay,
that's,
so the first
that's
person
fine.
to get there speaks, that's the way it's gonna work.
I can just see the vote. Pick
Right,
me, pick me.
Right, no, but what I'm about the recusal, and this is important to me especially, because if I participate in other groups which are not subject to sunshine, and I do all the right things, I'm the only one speaking, so I'm fine, and I talk about something, when it comes here, can I recuse myself from voting on that item?
There's no need to recuse yourself, and lawfully you can't recuse yourself unless
Okay.
there's a legal conflict of interest under chapter 112, where your vote will inure to your own personal gain or
Right,
loss,
well,
or
we'll
personal
put
gain or
that, that's
loss.
for sure, that's for sure,
Well-
but my expressing an opinion at another organization, As long as nobody else is there, it's my
It does
opinion.
not, right, it does not,
Then I can participate here and I'm fine.
correct.
Well, that's
I
interesting.
think the most difficult
No,
thing
well,
we face.
see, you may be thinking about what we've advised quasi judicial.
No, no,
boards
I
about.
understand
Correct.
quasi
So in
judicial
the
is
quasi-
entirely different,
So
entirely
that,
different.
so that's, in those particular cases, the exact scenario that you mentioned,
They should
would-
recuse.
they need to recuse themselves from the
Exactly.
quasi judicial.
I understand,
But no, there's no,
Here, no.
you can talk about anything that you're, the only thing you have to be mindful of is the sunshine law violation of discussing it with other board members outside of
So let
a
me give you a
sunshine meeting of this
specific,
board.
let me give you a specific instance. My civic association voted against the tunnel
Okay.
and in favor of the bridge,
Mhm.
for which the mayor is extremely mad at me, but that's democracy for you. Now, but we made a recommendation to go with the tunnel.
Okay.
That may come back to us at some point, who knows? It's foreseeable that it will come back to us, okay? Do I have to now recuse myself because I participated there?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'm beginning, it's coming clear to me, I think,
That's more of a political thing,
yeah, right.
you know,
Yeah.
if, you know, the commissioner or mayor who nominated you as an individual to sit on this board thinks that that activity is interfering
We
with.
serve at the pleasure of whoever appointed us.
Right, but there's nothing in the sunshine law that prohibits you.
The sunshine law is actually pretty easy. If you just follow the steps and you get it, don't,
Yeah, just,
And when in doubt, stay out.
so if, when in doubt, can we ask you for an opinion?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if we're confused or
You can always give me a call.
always give you a call and you can give us a, well, that's my safety net then. I'll always call you.
Should be.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else you wanted to tell us?
Oh, no, I was just going through your, and you know these already, to provide reports with recommendations to the city commission regarding the improvement priorities as well as the financial alternatives of said improvements. And this last one, which you've already addressed, but was added so that you could directly deal with the issue of the moratorium.
Yeah, we're done.
that you-
And we're done with that.
Okay, and
All right.
that concludes, the presentation.
Well, thank you. Is there any other questions for our city attorney?
Very informative.
Very, very good. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. That helped
Thanks,
clear things
Dwayne.
up for me.
You're welcome.
That's good.
Thank
All right.
you very much. You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the update on the smart meter project. Come on up.
All right, that will be me. Do you have the presentation there, or do I need to look it up?
do you want to stand or you want to sit here?
I can stand.
Okay.
No, I'll move.
That's all right.
You stand? Okay.
I can sit
Yeah, so
all
we
day.
gotta unfortunately put our backs to, but,
What is this?
oh, this is what I want to talk about.
And I don't know if this, does it belong to the attorney?
It probably belongs to Dwayne. Dwayne, this is yours, darling.
Here's your subpoena, sir.
Oh, this is my phone.
Don't forget that. Don't forget that one.
Is that yours?
Maybe there's somebody else left it up there.
Yeah, somebody else.
Okay, let's give it back to,
Can you tell me what this is? We have a lead.
oh, okay. It's, they hired an attorney to guide them in
Who's that?
the RFP, the separation.
Yeah.
So I want to support them hiring an attorney.
You want to pick the attorney?
No, I don't want to pick the, I don't want to manage. They're gonna hire these guys. They need legal support. Let's, yes, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, did they ask us to take a position?
No, they did not ask. Okay, that's just a support. It's a good idea, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, here we
Do
go.
I have a thing to move it, or you do it?
I mean, there is a clicker there, but
All right, so, well, thank you very much. My name is Suleiman Uitani. I'm the program manager for the AMI project for the city of Fort Lauderdale. And today, we're just gonna speak a little bit about the city of Fort Lauderdale's water utility infrastructure, what is the AMI technology, AMI benefits that the city will have as residents, some of the concerns of the AMI technology, and then I'm gonna give a status update on the program, the project status, timeline, and when things are to happen. So, next. So as we know, the city, the water infrastructure is over 100 years old. And the oldest operating facility is the Bill-Dixie water plant, which was built in 1926. So the utility serves all the city of Fort Lauderdale plus 7 neighborhood cities in Port Everglades. So it's roughly a little bit of about a quarter of 1,000 people that we serve. And then the water provided, it's about 54 million gallons a day. Currently, some of the way we do it is that we do manual reading of all the meters, the service and what we serve. And that is very,
Poor guys walking around.
so we do have a contract with a vendor that we pay about $500,000 a year to do just reading of all the meters. And that is very difficult to,
Very expensive way of doing it.
yes, and plus, what it does is that over the time, it decreases the accuracy of actually understanding the water usage of each home. And it's also very difficult to troubleshoot. If there is some inconsistency on the water billing or water usage, then you don't really know what the cause for that is. So this is basically what an AMI technology would look like. And it's basically the way it is that we installed a meter that is a cylinder-based meter that would read the usage of water via a cellular tower that you can see it, and that you can bring the signal over there, and it shoots it back to the utility department that tabulates the information and creates the accuracy of the bill to customer.
So it's something that's gonna go right on the meter in the ground?
When the meter will be a
brand new
brand new
meter.
meter, yes.
Okay.
Everything is gonna be operated with a brand new.
Is it periodic measurement or is it,
Yeah, so what that does is and that's every 15 minutes, is in real time.
15 minutes.
It can be up to every 15
It
minutes
updates.
of reading and updates.
So you could tell people if they suddenly have a leak.
Yes. And
And
that's the
send them a
benefit.
notice, say, hey,
That's
that's
so
good,
important.
that's very good, the pools
So
and everything
important.
like that.
So the benefit of the AMI technology now is back in the days, I mean, you could not really install a smart meter because it relied you had to invest a lot of the towering. The cellular towers, you had to actually do extra on them. But right now, we piggyback to the towers that already exist.
Mhm.
And that's why it's much easier and less costly for the city to actually implement the technology and install all these meters.
And we have enough coverage of towers in the city that everybody is covered.
Yes.
Is there any restriction on depth for that meter that it'll actually read?
That would be part of the
Yeah.
vendor when it comes to it.
Okay.
They'll actually raise it to where it needs to be?
So when you say AMI technology,
Advanced-
you're talking, it's not a specific company, it's a
No,
type of
that's just the
technology.
technology that exists. There's a lot of vendors out there, the companies that actually do this type of upgrade. And then the benefit here you see is that and it goes to this, you can see that as a software, it's easier for the neighbors and even for the city to actually, in a real time, look at it on a computer, on a phone, and look at your bill usage. It's similar to, you probably all have the FPL the electric bill.
Mhm.
So it's similar, like I can go and see like, okay, what hour did I spend, what is using the electricity, so it's gonna be similar. So it's very easy to use, and it's on real time. It's every 15 minutes, it tells you like.
Doesn't Teco do this now? Isn't that all on there?
I would presume so. I don't know.
Yes, the
Chris,
gas
you know,
guys.
is
Because I
Teco
never see a
using that?
gas guy, I always
Excuse me?
go.
And does
Gas,
this then get,
Teco, does it use
does this-
Teco?
Tico, they do it, right?
There are certain facilities that have all electronic meters. It's more of a private property by property basis where the electronic meters are.
I don't know how they read it, because they never get in my backyard.
They sometimes have the cellular ability to where it reports to their own home
I'm
base.
guessing it does.
And they also have driving meter readers that can literally just drive through a neighborhood. And as they go
Ah.
through, it actually collects as they go through the area.
that's what I thought this was,
Okay,
that
if they
there's a
can't use a
guy
tower,
driving
they just-
around with a.
Yeah.
The person's the tower.
Which is sometimes the backup to if there are any dead spots or some sort of reporting issues.
Mhm.
You might still have to have a reader go out there, but they're not going out every single month or whatever to every single meter. They can go where the problem spot is and not only get the data, but also figure out what the problem is on the reporting and fix it.
Good, excellent, okay.
And the water bill will be easier to read, and it's also understand the cost of usage, so it
We'll be
answers a
able to
lot of
pay
questions.
online, just pay it online?
Part of that.
Excellent.
Next. Some of the benefits, definitely is gonna help the city save on the operational savings. I mean, we're going to, so right now we pay about $500,000. Definitely, I mean, the savings with the city is not gonna happen immediately.
You have to
It's gonna
ramp up,
be
you're gonna
over
spend
time.
more,
Yes.
but it's gonna go down.
Over time, like,
Yeah.
say, within the
You don't
8-year
have the
mark, 10
manpower,
years
yeah.
gonna be savings. Then the increased accuracy of the water usage, definitely that's what's going to increase it, because right now we probably have a lot of, as I put there a note, non-revenue water loss. A lot of water is being lost and we don't actually capture that revenue.
Fire hydrant flushings, the system, and trying to get rid of the extra.
Exactly. And then real-time alerts for leaks, that's what Chris was just talking about. You know, it's very difficult sometimes when you see a bill into a resident that it's fluctuates so much and you really
I
don't
can't
understand
even
what's
tell
happening.
you, that being a real estate broker, the incidences of people getting bills for thousands and thousands of dollars.
$30,000,
I mean, really bad.
I guess it might be advantageous for the city also, because over years, if it's still the kind of archaic measuring cups the water goes through, and then eventually wears it down so that the accuracy diminishes the amount of, that it would be beneficial, you know, after X number of years. Gee, this customer is no longer getting, you know, 8,000 gallons, he's down to 4,000, something's, so
Yeah.
it might be a red light for the city to go out there and change the meter.
Yeah, and that would trigger all of those different unusual activities into the water usage.
Okay, so lots of
Better problem
benefits.
diagnosis, that's what I said. I mean, you can do, like, for the city utility department, it's very easy for us to diagnose what's happening. Better customer service to our neighbors, I mean, this is one of the biggest things. A lot of neighbors would say, hey, why my bill is this much? Then it's easy for us to actually explain to them, okay, this is why you're having this bill.
Has the commission already approved this?
Yes, the
The
funding is
purchase?
already approved and
Good.
everything.
Great, thank God.
Water usage can be
Now,
viewed
no, what's the
online.
bad parts?
It's just gonna cost more money starting, but
Well,
over
no,
time it's
I'm
gonna go
just
down.
asking you, next slide is, what's the problems? We're all
Yeah.
on board
All
here,
right,
what's the problem?
Next. I mean,
Such a
there's,
scary-
some of the concerns, there's really no problems. I think the
have
first
no
one
cost.
is going to be the upfront high cost. That's what's gonna go. Right now, we are cost estimating to be somewhere around $30 million it's gonna be.
30 million.
And you told me 30 million's already been approved.
It's been approved, so the city, what they're gonna do is they're gonna issue debt. So it's gonna be like a 15-year loan, I think they're planning on doing.
We're not doing bonds, we're borrowing.
And most of that's for the infrastructure to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the
I
20
think
years
all
or
of it,
whatever.
that'll
so-
be all of it for the infrastructure.
Yeah, so actually, right now, it's in the fiscal year 2022, that's already it's approved as a funding. Now, we just need to make some progress in terms of getting the consultant, the contractor on board, where the money, the debt is going to be issued.
Okay,
Because you
so
don't wanna go
We got the bonds, we got the loan lined up.
What's the
everything.
neighbor,
Let's go.
what would neighbor resistance?
Well, I mean, you have a lot of, probably for some of the neighbors, the water bill is gonna go up, because the meter is gonna read it more accurately of what's happening in their system.
Definitely.
So,
A
I
lot of
mean, we
people have
have.
been getting by with the old meters that are.
Good, I wanna talk it to him, I'm paying too much.
Right.
Some of the neighboring cities, like Plantation or the other cities that we have around, they actually told us about that. Be ready to explain to the customer,
Okay.
because there's gonna be some resistance in it.
Well, you know, I wanna point out something. If you stand downstairs waiting for the elevator and you watch all those people coming in to pay their water bills, they're gonna be very unhappy. Because they
They
are
wanna
not,
come to City Hall?
no, they don't wanna come to, but they're not, may not be technologically savvy enough to appreciate this. And I mean, you have that right there. Will there be an option to continue to get a paper bill in the mail?
I presume so. I think we have to
Okay.
make sure that we have the option to somebody
Right.
who doesn't have access to, and that's why technology benefits may not be utilized. So that's one of the concern. So
Okay,
yes, of course.
but they'll still get their bill in the mail, and they can still come and pay their bill and ask questions.
It's like right now in any other bill, you have the option to say paper bill or online bill.
Excellent, excellent, so I think we're cool.
I'm totally in favor of
Okay,
this,
anything
great.
else?
So we definitely gonna need to have like some type of educational campaign within the
Yeah.
city, so that way we can go and see, because you know, some people might not be using a computer or a phone to actually get the full benefit of this technology that,
So just buy
Can
phones
help.
for everybody.
yeah.
Okay, so
Next.
moving on.
So this is the timeline. So right now we are just literally on the March 30th, we just closed the RFQ for the solicitation of the consultant who is going to help us develop the criteria for the RFP or the specification for the RFP. And that, and once they are done, then we're gonna go out to the, to solicit the vendor who is actually going to install and upgrade this technology. So right now, we are estimating to be that in November. So that's when we're gonna complete the RFP development. We're gonna advertise it on December of this year. And then the implementation really is gonna take about 24 months, which is, we're estimating to complete this by July of 2025.
Well, this is marvelous. My only complaint is that why is it taking it so long?
They didn't have me yet.
Okay,
So, next.
Who's the consultants that you're hiring to help write
We
the
are in the
RFP?
Conus Island still, we're just closed the, we had some proposals who came through on the March 3rd, they just closed. Right now, we're in the process of evaluating and reviewing that.
How many proposals?
I think we received about 9.
just to be the consultant to write the
The
RFP.
consultant is is gonna do, helping us to develop the RFP and also gonna do the owner's rep. To make sure that we actually doing,
Two
yeah.
jobs. Okay, how much is that contract for?
To develop, I think just the RFP is gonna be roughly around $200,000, and then we're gonna look at, see how much the owner's rep is gonna cost.
Okay, 'cause you're really gonna need an owner's rep on that one,
Yes.
cause that's,
We wanna make sure that we do it
somebody's gotta
right.
be out there making sure that all the meters are in.
And we wanna make, yeah, exactly, we wanna make sure that we do it right, and I think we need some type of
Yeah.
consultant who has the knowledge. in it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you
Any
very
questions?
much. Yes, I
That's
have
it?
another question
Yeah.
about your other job.
Which other job?
The other job is, what are we doing, how are we doing on the consultant to map the water treatment, the water pipes?
So the city on the March 15, what happens is one of the consultant filed a lawsuit against the city for not being allowed to bid on the project. So that's really stalled the process. And on March 15, the city commission decided to throw away all the bids that we had received prior, and asked the city, the administration to advertise it again.
So we start back to zero.
We're start back.
God damn.
So on on April 6th, we are hoping that we're gonna release that RFP.
Are we gonna run into problem with the consent order?
Most likely, but the plan is to seek out, to set a meeting with the FDP and discuss and see if we can ask for an
Does
extension.
everybody know,
What's the,
okay, I should back up.
Was the
Part of-
lawsuit withdrawn when they threw them,
They reached out a settlement so that
they settled
they settled so that the city can allow that consultant to bid.
by throwing out everybody and
Right, yeah.
starting over
Restarting
again?
again.
Okay.
So this is the mapping of the water distribution system, similar to the mapping of the sewer system. The sewer system was part of the consent order for the sewers, and the water mapping was part of the consent order for the water. And it's been a real slog. I mean, we really need that. We've been talking about this for a year. As a matter of fact, at the last public meeting, a member of the public got up and berated the city for how come we don't have a mapping of our water system, our distribution system, so that's the reason.
So we're hoping to get that going this week.
Okay,
And
very good. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
I'm sorry, what's the expected completion date of the AMI rollout?
July 2025.
July.
there's a lot of unaccounted for water, and primarily during this time, it's like the city is flushing their fire hydrants unmetered. And is there any, of course it's expensive, but is there any possibility of, on these little 6-inch lines, to put in a meter to account for the unaccounted for water?
You mean as a solution right now?
Well, it's unmetered. I mean, there's water main breaks, and of course you can anticipate what that is, but this is kind of a regular basis. Every so many months, with the chloramide, the the nitrification builds up, and they, especially during the summer months, they have to do flushings to get rid of that unacceptable water quality. And right now, they just open up the fire hydrants and just let it go out. And if there any means that we
For
could.
days, it runs for days.
Yeah, it runs for weeks
I
in
mean,
some
so,
areas, mainly in the outer distribution areas, but just the thought, just trying to pin that down is, even if they've got a lot of these old meters, maybe you want to be completely homogenized with these newer meters, but I'm just looking at means of trying to solve this problem.
Well, what's the benefit of knowing how much the city's using to flush with maintenance? It has to happen,
Well, I mean, at the plant, they know how much water they're sending out,
right?
and
Narrow down how
so,
much is lost
then
outside of
what's-
that.
Wastage, I would say.
it's wasted water.
Yeah,
Right, but the, coming from the through the hydrant, that's necessary, it has to
Right.
happen. So you're
I'm
trying
not-
to narrow down what else is wasted?
Well, there's, you have water main breaks and that's unmeasured.
Right.
And you may have, I don't know, other instances where, there may be some other instances, but primarily I was just focusing on the fire hydrants where somebody gets out and flushes, the city is flushing out their system. If there's any way, you can say, okay, X number of thousands or millions of gallons have left the plant, and the meters have recorded so many other millions, and we've got a difference in those amounts.
Well, you would know that now.
You would
It won't
know
be as
that
accurate,
now.
it won't be
now.
as accurate as the electrics, but you'd know that now. If the plant puts out 60 and the bills for that day or period of time is 55, you know that you just lost five of those gallons. And again, what's the difference? And we gotta do it.
So, I mean,
Other than to show the city how it would be really to their advantage to make that loop, which they've been talking about, but have never funded, I mean, if you can prove to the city that we've lost 5 million gallons a day for 10 days doing this, I mean, water is gold. And whatever it cost you to loop that system, to save that water, eventually we're gonna have to do it because we won't have enough water.
Yeah, but I think the loop is different because I think the loop is, so the flushing you do at the end of a line is minimal compared to how much you flush when you actually purge the lines with
But
chlorine.
aren't you purging the lines because it doesn't loop and go back?
No,
That's what I thought it was.
there's some where you have dead end lines,
Well,
and
those-
you've got
Yeah,
to
that's-
flush it out because the water gets stagnant.
stagnant, but that's
But
different than
it's,
flushing.
you're right, I mean, you can say this is how much we have unaccounted for water. But to me, I like to see if fire hydrants could have some kind of a meter on it to determine that. I used to run these things for Broward County, and I would teach people how to do far flow tests in accordance with the proper procedures, and we'd always have some kind of a meter on there. Of course, that flow was coming out sufficiently, but a lot of these hydrants that are being flushed out for the water is just kind of a limp water thing, and you'd have to have a meter on the line before it got out to the.
Okay.
The smart meters, do you have the capability to shut them down remotely?
I presume so.
And is the RFP is gonna specify the meter, or there's gonna be a list of options?
It's going to specify the criteria that the city is gonna need to,
Mhm.
and then yes, including probably the options of what's the most up-to-date technology right now.
Okay, and I just have one last question. When Santec does its evaluation of the water treatment rate, the water rates, okay? Have they included the potential additional water, additional amount of money we'd be getting from smart metering as a sort of an offset on some of the other costs that are gonna affect the cost of the water?
I think that
Or
was
we're just gonna assume that's a positive and just leave it
Well,
at that?
there was a study that was done, a performance-based study, which contractor never went further than that. I think it was Siemens company
Mhm.
who did and they kind of broke it down of what were the benefits of doing that and how much the city would save in the long run.
Right.
So yes,
So we- we-
There
we-
are some numbers out
We know
there.
some numbers,
Yes.
so let's say the city is gonna save, 2% on its water,
I mean, I
It's
can
good.
look into that study and then come back
Okay.
and let you know, but I think
I was
there's-
just curious to see if it's been figured into the whole,
Yeah,
because
of course.
water rates are gonna be very hot topic, very soon.
Are you speaking about like doing a pilot study, or there was one
This is-
done?
No, it's, prior to me coming here, on the historical information that I saw, that there was planned for a pilot, but then the city said, you know what, it's taking forever, so we're just gonna go ahead and do it. We kind of know like what we need to do, that just,
Okay, I was thinking there may be value just to determine measurement of how much more you're gonna, how much greater specificity you have when you do
I
your-
remember the Siemens study, and there was an analysis of how
Yeah.
much we would save
Uh-huh.
versus how much we would spend. But my question was that significant enough to affect the water rate discussion? Maybe
that-
not.
that,
We have to look into see if it was actually used in their actual calculations. It was definitely a huge discussion piece, which is how we justified the $30 million debt loan that we're gonna do, is because we recognize that's gonna be easily covered with the income improvements from the new meters.
So
Now, as far as informing future rates and part of the rate study, I'm not sure how much it factors into that specifically,
That's
but it
gonna
is
be
part of their
different.
mathematics.
but if assuming that we make enough money, enough additional revenue to at least cover the loan, I mean, that would be a really nice thing,
Yep,
if that
and then
was
once
the
the
case.
loan's over, you're still
Then you're
recognizing
making money.
increased. Yep.
All right, well, thank you,
Very
this has
good.
been
All right.
very illuminating,
Well,
thank you very much. Excellent. All right. Now we get on to the Penny Surtax Annual Report, which I had the staff send to everybody. And we have Karen here today to talk a little bit about what we're getting, what are we getting out of the Penny Surtax? What are we gonna get in the future out of the Penny Surtax? And any issues that she thinks we might be, we might need to consider and perhaps pass on to the commission as part of our mission. This is like, one of the things that we hadn't gotten into in the first years was transportation, and now we are getting into transportation a lot, what with the tunnel and the bridge and the, issues of roadway improvements, sidewalk improvements, which is essentially all involved, taken up in this Penny Surtax. So Karen, there you are.
And I don't know, Jules, do you want something else to talk about this?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't prepare anything today.
So I guess, way back in history, we passed the referendum to add the penny tax on transportation. So over the last few years, the county's been ramping up their program, setting up the guidelines and how the process is gonna work and kind of getting their feet under them on how this is gonna work. Since the first referendum to now, there was an amendment that was voted on that further narrowed the interpretation of what it can be used for. So the county is very particular based on the transportation surtax state legislation on what it can be spent. Really, it is about traffic calming, roadway widening are the two main things that they'll fund. The multimodal for multimodal's sake is no longer something that the county will fund. So we had a sidewalk surtax project that originally had been funded or recommended for funding. We've been since told that that did not meet the state legislation definition of what it can be used for, according to the county, so that project's has been eliminated.
And all future sidewalk projects.
For sidewalk's sake. But if we can create a roadway project, one of the examples that we've been trying to get funded of a project is Northeast 26th Street from Bayview to US 1 to connect different projects there. So if we word the project, it's all about knowing how you can word things and what makes sense for who's making the decision. So if we can reword that project as a traffic calming project, which it is, we're gonna do raised tables and a traffic circle, and then ancillary to our road traffic calming, we're adding sidewalks and bike lanes. Then it will be eligible.
Okay,
But
so
we can't just put a sidewalk in and that's.
so any sidewalk project, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, so if you got a 4-lane, you got a right of way, 4 lanes, right, with unprotected 5-foot sidewalks on each side. I'm on the 45 mile an hour, you know, people are probably driving 60. Would it be considered traffic calming to reduce lane widths? Could you increase the sidewalk width in that case?
If you are reducing lane width to calm traffic and thereby make extra space, then ancillary to that, you could do sidewalks. So we looked at all of our projects again, reworded projects, submitted quite a few. I think it's coming before commission shortly. It might be this meeting, if not the next meeting, for the projects we're submitting, but there's not a whole lot of money. I haven't seen the latest, but it was about 30 million a year for all the cities in Broward County.
Huh.
So when you divide 31 cities by 30 million, that you can't really get much, do anything.
See, I knew we were not gonna get a lot of money from this thing for the penny. But they did take over the buses.
Yes.
So buses, we got a big
Excellent,
bonus. They
yes.
took over all the local buses.
They're paying 100% of the cost for community bus.
And all the new buses will come through that, so it's
Yeah,
not,
all our new community buses that you'll see out there, those are all provided by the county.
This is good.
They are also more open to extensions of our routes we can submit, and our transit planner is working on that. Because they're 100%, we're more likely to do more routes because it's 100%, we always ran up against that barrier of, it's at least $40 an hour to run a community bus, and how do you pay for that? So now that the county's paying for it, it is great, but that does come out of the 10% that the county gives the city, so that's out of that 30 million as well. You can take that out.
oh, that's not extra.
No.
Oh, that's not because the county is running them, that's because they're taking it out of our share. What is the county doing with all their money?
They
and
have
how
quite a
much
few,
are they
they have a lot of
collecting?
projects,
I saw their map, they
100%
have an
more.
interactive map.
yes.
I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. And there's lots of projects there, they're spending a ton of money on signalization.
Yes.
And there's also some sidewalk projects in there, so they're funding their sidewalk projects, but we can't ask for sidewalk projects.
For moving on, we cannot. Those were all kind of the previous projects that they did. We are getting projects on county roads. They're doing projects within the city, but that are on their roads. So 56th Street, 55th Street, there's some sidewalk projects, drainage, things like that, that they're working on their roads for projects.
But not going forward, even on their roads.
It has to be the traffic calming or roadway widening in
So
order
let
to
me-
put this in.
When you say roadway widening, what does that mean exactly? Like, if I have excess right of way, the only thing I can do in that excess right of way is add a vehicular lane?
That is what we've been getting at, because we tried that if we add a bike lane, we're improving capacity for the road overall, and we didn't get support.
Right, so if we're trying to reduce the amount of cars in the urban core, obviously adding vehicular lanes is only gonna add cars. But that's what they wanna see?
That is their interpretation of what the state law says right now. That
Is
is the
that
county attorney's
the
interpretation.
county attorney? Well, can't the county attorney be overridden by the county? Can't the county commissioner go and
Even if
say
you were to
no?
put, even if you were to put bike lanes and pedestrian ways that could send more people from point A to point B than that vehicular lane, it'll have more people per hour.
The interpretation is particular to moving vehicles.
We're still designing for
Well,
cars.
They are, yeah.
So moving.
So we just, so we just, you know, in my department, what we do is we don't get a lot of CIP city money, so we have to try to find programs that we can fit our projects into. So it's just relooking at what projects we have and which ones will fit into that box and putting those into the county box and putting the ones that don't somewhere else.
Well, for instance, they put the Ocean Avenue Bridge into the penny surtax funds. And that's not increasing traffic, so we cannot look forward to that anymore?
Well, it's approved.
Yeah, that was approved.
That was
There
approved.
was a small amount of maintenance money the first year they had left over that they allowed for repair and maintenance. So we got a few projects early on in those maintenance funds, but they've not allocated any more repair and maintenance since that first
Well,
year.
this is important for us because we have a bridge master plan, okay? And there's a lot of bridges that need to be fixed. You're telling us going forward, we cannot be looking for surtax money to fix the bridges?
not my impression. I don't know, Jill, if you've heard anything else from.
We haven't heard anything new, but anything that was approved, South Ocean Drive Bridge was approved, which, you know, that will be the first one out. And then the one after that, as we shared last meeting, was Westlake Drive Bridge. That's another one that's in the queue. But going forward, we have a lot of eligible bridges we'd like to be considered. So as soon as the window opens up, we will submit those applications and we will really try to get those monies allocated to Fort Lauderdale.
And you mentioned something about the window opening up. This is, I think, an important issue, because this is done in five-year blocks, as I understand, or certain
No,
blocks.
It is annual now. They did a 5-year plan, just like the CIP.
Okay.
And now every year it'll be like our CIP process where you add the new 5th year. So that application process will end next Monday, I think, a week from today-ish, end of this week. So that will be that cycle, but then there's a lot of federal money coming down. And I don't know if you all have talked about that. That might be an interesting conversation.
Yes, we would love to hear from our staff about what is our strategy for attacking, getting some of that federal money. Actually, it's a very hot subject. And we've been told that, and maybe this has changed, that the guidelines haven't come down yet. And so we're waiting for the state and to make the state knows how much money they're gonna get.
There's
I
a whole
understand.
range of, there's the allocations where we've already gotten additional allocations through the MPO, you know, they get the allocations, and if it's based on your population, then those have all come down, but any new programs, there's new bridge programs that are coming down, we do have some bridges that are on the list to be eligible for that, but all those new programs are gonna take a long time for
Yeah,
them to
I
come up
appreciate
with the
that,
new
yeah.
legislation.
But you're telling me that there has been some movement on establishing some guidelines of where that money is gonna be used. Because the last time we met, the word was that the guidelines were still being worked on. Are there guidelines somewhere saying, yeah, we'll fund these types of programs and these types of programs for how much?
The types are established.
The
yes,
types,
the
okay.
types, but how that's gonna work and what the requirements are gonna be, any new programs that haven't been developed yet.
So this is good information, yes?
So it's, so you say the city attorney, is there an opinion the city
County
attorney has rendered?
The county attorney.
I mean, the county attorney, does he have if it's not by ordinance, it's not by county ordinance, it's a
It's a
city,
state.
county attorney's opinion of a state statute.
Yes,
Do you know the statutory section?
I can get it, I don't know it off my
Right,
head.
and it's a written opinion of the county attorney?
I believe she has written it,
Yeah.
Ms. Wall,
And has every county taken the same position?
it's not my understanding.
So you think
How
Palm
does
Beach
that,
County
like,
is?
I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, when you look at like the board's report here, and I think they have like 4 general priorities, I believe, and I mean, one of them is explicitly increasing multimodal capacity.
It's been extremely challenging as a
So
municipality
are they acting out of bounds with this report?
It's been a challenge, you know, there's 2 attorneys and they don't agree. It's been a challenge of every day, you know, every time we apply, something changes, something's different. We don't know what it is going in. They tried to change the rules this time where we can you pre-apply and then they'll run it to see if it's eligible, but it was no more helpful than last time. It's been a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
We've been persistent just to try and say at least we're trying. But it's been a challenge and it changes every day. You'll have one staff member standing up talking about how it's all about multimodal and then the next day you're told multimodal doesn't work, so
Multimodal doesn't work?
we can't,
Like
yeah, they won't
walking,
fund it,
like
yeah.
having like a pedestrian shed that doesn't work? It works all over the world, doesn't it? It's bizarre.
Yes.
Well, you know, the fact that it's a county situation, I don't know that we have any sway with them, but whether or not we would ask the commission to take a position and go to the county and say, hey, look, multimodal is, you know, we believe is very important. I don't know, you know, and obviously we don't have enough people here to talk about this, but this is very disappointing to me.
I mean, they're generally saying that the right of way is really just the domain of the personal automobile. Right, and so it's really, you know, the only way to gain access to this public space is if you're able to
And the
Have a private
transportation is,
automobile and-
yeah, transportation's vehicles.
Yeah, single occupant, or I guess, you could carpool, but it's not any more than just personal vehicles. So
Or buses.
I just don't even know how that stacks up against anything outside of this little bubble.
And when you say that you're not sure that all the counties are abiding by these rules, do we know that for a fact, that some other counties are getting a different interpretation and putting in different projects?
My understanding is that other counties who have pre-existing surtax have spent money on these type of projects, but I have not myself gone in and read through it. It's just in the conversations that we've had over the last year about our frustrations.
Well, pre-existing I can understand, because we had some pre-existing good projects, but going
The state law
forward.
has not changed.
The
so-
state law hasn't changed, so it's only a question of interpretation on the part of our county attorney,
Right.
as opposed to Palm Beach's county attorney. Because if they put in projects for multimodal, their MPO might just as well fund them. So we really have a role to play here, I think, in pointing out to the city commission that if we're ever gonna get any money for sidewalks and multimodal, they've gotta take a strong position at the county. Have they done that? Have they just rolled over and said whatever the county said? I'm not saying rolled over. I mean, have they focused on this? That's what, maybe our role is to get them to focus on that this is a problem,
I
guys.
don't understand how this is even workable. I mean, how are you gonna add, which roads you gonna widen in downtown, in Fort Lauderdale?
We
I
can't
mean,
widen anything, so
Right, so-
traffic
so
calming
you're
is
basi-
really what we're gonna focus on. But then projects that may include, like I said, Northeast 26th Street, it has traffic calming elements
So we
in
take
it.
existing right of way and reorient it.
Yeah.
But if we reorient it in a way that, I mean, can traffic calming reduce? I mean, I'm just talking about vehicular capacity at this point, I'm not talking about people trips and, total capacity. But can you reorient the same right of way, and reduce vehicular capacity
In the name of traffic calming.
in the name of traffic calming?
Look at like
Okay,
Northeast
well,
15th Ave.
okay.
Northeast 15th Ave, that one segment between Publix and 13th Street, we did a lane elimination there.
Yeah.
We're gonna put some paint on the ground, but the final construction project.
In some ways, it's semantics, it
It's
sounds
total-
like.
A lot of it is, except for the being able to do sidewalks, like for sidewalks' sake.
Right, well, but I would think that if you were doing, especially if you're doing new sidewalks, they would be in the context of something that, that's more comprehensive than just sticking the sidewalk, gratuitously somewhere.
Some, but there's a great need.
There is a great
Jill and
need.
I have
Yes.
talked for many years of our interest to try to get sidewalk gaps filled. I have a long list of requests that we've gotten from the community, different communities across
Yeah.
the city, that there's little gaps, just a few, like one property, 2 properties that could fill a gap, or the South Florida racetrack sidewalks, I call them, where you can go around the block but you can't get off because they don't connect to each other.
Right.
There's such a need, that would make such a difference if we had money.
Wooden crosswalks, that's not considered traffic calming, like signalized crosswalks?
No.
County's not gonna let you put a crosswalk.
No,
But if you did
County
huh?
won't let you put a crosswalk, they're moving away from crosswalks. Signalized maybe.
Even at a tabletop intersection?
We wouldn't put a crosswalk in to slow cars though. That wouldn't be the purpose of it.
But to stop them, like to stop the queue, would it,
It's hard to
I'll defer to the
justify.
engineers in the room, but I
How
don't
is that
think
hard
we
to
would do
justify?
Hard to
that.
justify a mid-block crosswalk or a signalized crosswalk.
well, I don't know if we're just talking
Those
mid-block, I was just even saying like at intersections, I mean, if you needed to connect across an intersection, but you're saying you can't.
The purpose of that would be to improve pedestrian safety, not to slow cars down. Like the main purpose of it.
As an example, I've got
That's
one.
semantics.
I think it's semantics as well.
That's semantics.
That would be a push for us to say that putting a crosswalk is just to slow cars.
You
We
said
wanna put people out in the street to.
You set priorities on these, correct? In other words, like, we have an example up in, close to Imperial Point on 56 and Federal to the west, where you have the schools in there. So it's obviously more concern for safety of the volume of the children in there. So that would, to me, would get a priority on getting, we have like a sidewalk partially on one side, and it was proposed to have sidewalks on both sides.
I mean, what is the point in traffic calming?
To slow vehicles, to
For what?
the
Why?
appropriate
Why should we
speed,
slow them?
to stop crashing into people,
Each
and
other?
cars, and each other.
To people,
yes.
yes. So
Like
how is
the-
that not safety then? I mean,
Well, I think like 15th Ave, we just had a public meeting about that, and there was probably over 200 crashes in a 5-year period just on that one little segment. So people are going way too fast and they lose control and they're crashing into people. So trying to slow people down to an appropriate speed is the first priority. But again, that project will include sidewalks, but not for traffic calming. But ancillary to the traffic calming project, to slow cars down, to go a safer speed, we'll put crosswalks in because cars are going slower, so it's safer for people to cross. Add bike lanes, add landscaping, all of that.
well, that's what I was saying a few minutes ago, if you had like a tabletop, I mean, that would be
Yep.
classic traffic calming, but
Yes,
then
yep.
to be able to include a crosswalk with that.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
makes sense, right,
Yep.
okay, so when you're talking about the racetrack blocks, I mean, if you had an intersection where you put a traffic calming measure in there, you could then supplement it to connect those racetrack blocks, as you're saying.
Yes, yeah, if I put it on top of a traffic calming measure.
But you don't typically tabletop at an intersection, you tabletop at a midwalk cross.
No, we tabletop intersections.
All the time.
I've seen it, no, I haven't seen it here.
Okay, I guess Maryland's out, so I'll. We don't have a quorum, by the way, anymore, since
Yeah.
Jacqueline left.
Karen, can I ask you a question about that 15th Avenue, that's close to my neighborhood? Is there gonna be any changes there for the intersection with the Publix and the drugstore across the street?
The long-term project would have changes. We looked at, in the temporary project we're doing right now, that Dr. Urban is on, that you were at the meeting, right?
Yeah.
And we looked at, could there be something we could do temporary, just to try it out, and then we
Yeah.
could take the delineators out, but it's so tough.
Yeah.
We didn't even really wanna touch it for the short-term paint and
I know it's part of the long term, they're gonna fix somehow, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough spot.
Any other questions, or we move on?
I just have one other question. Since we can't use the surtax funds for sidewalks, that means the burden of all sidewalk projects falls back on the CIP. And we remembered that there was not a hell of a lot of money in the CIP going towards sidewalks. So it's something for us to think about in terms of unfunded top priority projects that we wanna bring to the commission's attention. Like on the top 10 list, do we wanna move unfunded sidewalks up on our list? If you recall, I don't think
Last month, we shared with you some of the unfunded projects in our sidewalk slide. Those were those gaps in the new sidewalk connections that Karen was referencing just minutes ago. We identified, because the contract that we have right now, the city just repairs damaged sidewalks
Right.
to make the sidewalks ADA compliant. It does not build new sidewalks. Like, so if there's if there's a block without sidewalks, we can't use our annual contract to build that block. And that's why Karen and I have been working very closely together the last 2-3 years. We collected a lot of data, made a lot of maps, trying to go for surtax dollars. And to get it rejected just recently, we were very disappointed.
So it's time for us to, I think, take some action.
Yes.
All right, one of the things on our top 10 list was the maintenance facility in this upcoming budget. And maybe we should be taking the position that in the upcoming budget, since we have discovered that this is a problem, we should have a CIP line for new sidewalks. Even if you had a line in there for like $1 million, in that budget, $1 million, to have a real line, a real CIP line that you could start using it for those projects. Something for us to think about, and probably have to think about quickly, because the budget starts, working itself again.
You were able to put together the chart that showed what the liability payouts have been on sidewalk lawsuits versus how much the city's budgeting for them. Was that in this report, or was a separate document that was sent out to us? You know what I'm talking about?
I remember that document, and it was, I remember it vaguely, but somebody did put together for us
Yeah.
how much money we paid every year in
Insurance.
lawsuits and insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The lawsuits for the insurance
Right,
versus how much money we paid for.
right, and it was so imbalanced, is what I recall.
I don't recall that it was all that much imbalanced.
The
Trace?
backup documents in that you guys received with the agenda does have the breakdown of the claims open and paid over the last
Right.
10 years. It doesn't have the number next to it that says this is what we spend on sidewalks, but of course that can be,
So what is the number there in the backup? What do we pay out every year?
if I were to run an average, I would say roughly probably around the three to 500,000. It varies anywhere from on the low end, only 200, all the way up to 600. So probably 400 average.
So if we had a CIP line with $400,000, you could build a lot of sidewalks every year. At least get started. Something to think about.
Yeah, I get the more,
I think on our next agenda item, we should go over the top 10 list and talk about what recommendations we're gonna make to the commission on the upcoming budget hearings.
it's coming up soon.
Because it's coming up soon, the next FY '23. Okay, does anybody have any more on this dilatory topic? Really, very
Apologies, that's all.
depressing. Mhm.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate it. Okay, before we get to the Public Works update, if you will indulge me, because it's late and you might wanna go home. Tomorrow night on the, on the commission's agenda, CR2 is a resolution appointing the firm of Nicholas Gabors, Giblin and Nickerson as special counsel to represent the city of Fort Lauderdale in connection with the unsolicited proposal and project submitted by IDE Technology for the water treatment plant, for the design and construction and the maintenance of water treatment plant. Okay, so they have decided, and I think smartly, to hire themselves a specialized law firm who will, in fact, work with the city on putting together this comprehensive agreement, because we're up to the comprehensive agreement now, right? Because the decision's been made.
Right.
That's whatever they decided, they're gonna go forward. But now they have to put together the comprehensive agreement. And I'm assuming that they have Hazen and Sawyer to help them with the technical aspects of the comprehensive agreement.
Yes.
And
Okay.
E&Y was E&Y involved as anymore at all?
No, E&Y is out of the picture now.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but now they're gonna need specialized legal expertise to help them with the comprehensive agreement. So I was wondering if you all wanted to take, to send me, I'm gonna be there tomorrow any night, if you wanted to congratulate them and support them on hiring specialized expertise to get this comprehensive agreement put together.
I went through the resume,
Yeah,
and I think they had one younger fellow. Of course, they're all younger now.
everybody's younger, Ralph.
But it didn't seem like they had a lot of P3 experience with treatment plants. They had, what was it, a Hialeah one, it was about 6 million gallons or something like that. But, I mean, it's better than nothing, but just, my concern is, those P3 companies have stay in business. They've got a lot of attorneys and a lot of trained, seasoned ones. And I just hope that this company will be able to, I mean, it's better than just our own city attorneys, because they're busy anyway with ongoing problems. And not probably too many of them are versed in P3 contracts, and we've been mainly RFP contracts throughout many years, but I just hope it's a great idea. I wish them the best success. I just hope they're seasoned enough to get into the P3 contracts to make sure that we don't have, already we've had a hiccup with the Lockhart Park and the minor
Yeah.
things, which was a good exercise in the sense of having it on a smaller project. But when we get into $500 million water treatment plant, and they're going to be turning over the operation, and it also includes the water mains. So there's a lot of stuff out there that can go wrong.
Well, I hear you, and I made a point of not looking at their qualifications, because it's not my job to opine upon I have no expertise on this, I'm assuming. Did the city public works system have, people have any input into which attorneys to hire, or was this entirely
I can't speak 100% on that. I would have to be assuming, so I don't wanna say for sure. I know Alan has been in contact with the city manager and of course with the attorneys in the process of getting them onboarded. But as far as the actual selection process of what firms were available, I'm not 100% sure, so I can't say.
okay, well, it's good
It's
to
a-
know
it's-
that they've been talking to each other about it, so.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
Getting
definitely.
a firm that has some P3 involvement with the contractual aspects of that. I just hope, again, with the water and even wastewater plants, it's a different ballgame with P3s than it is with, say, a park.
So Marilyn, did you have a question to us about speaking tomorrow
Yeah,
night?
I
or
was
what is
just-
what do
My
we-
question was, do we just let it go, or do we go and show our support for actually making a good decision to get this person on board to
We don't
help
know
them?
if they're any good.
Well, a person on board, yeah, you're right, I don't know, I have
The
no idea
concept.
who these guys are. The concept is correct, that you need specialized legal expertise when you're putting together a comprehensive agreement of this nature and this scope.
But Alan made that statement at the meeting. He said, well, we're gonna have to hire, and I don't know who it was, Dean or Ben or somebody said something about, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and I mean, what's the point of us saying anything?
That's why
I
I'm
guess
asking
my
you, that's why I
challenge.
didn't just show up and do it, I'm asking, you think should we just let it go? If it's a
Well, we
good
don't have a
idea, let it
quorum,
go.
so we
Yeah, I
can't
don't think we can
decide.
decide
There you
anyways.
go,
So,
done,
okay.
done, okay. All right, I had a busy night tomorrow anyway. Public Works update, okay, now, this is a wonderful thing, we have enough time to talk about the water and sewer break reports of 2002. Can we pull them up on the board? Okey dokey.
Upgrades.
Consent order project, no, this is not it, this is not it.
If this is the document I'm thinking, I would go to the last,
The very last
the
two
last
pages.
2 pages, yeah.
Expenditures.
There you go.
There you go, okay, here we go.
Yeah, this one.
So, does somebody wanna just sort of summarize this? This is all of 2021, right? No. Water and sewer expansion impact fees, well, this is nice, this is interesting.
Up to March.
Yeah, go another 2 more pages.
Oh, yeah, that was a good chart, because we saw how much the city's bringing in for
Right.
the impact fees
Correct.
for, what was the time period on that, just this month?
Can we go back one?
March 24th.
It was,
It's just this year, right?
It's October 21 through March
Oh,
22.
6 months,
6
okay.
months.
Even 6 months, that's pretty good. There's a lot of construction going on.
I say raise the rates.
We just raised the rates. But you know, the important thing about this is that we are really now constrained in the use of those funds very much by the recent state statutes. I mean, you gotta be really, really careful about where you use those funds. It only be for infrastructure capacity up, you know,
can only be for
capacity.
water if it's water and sewer if it's
And
sewer.
sewer if it's sewer, and they have to keep a list and they have to report. So I don't think that that's, you know, we were very concerned about that in the beginning of our life, very concerned about it, but now with the increased review of the state statute, I don't think
We
we,
just codified common law though, I think. Just, the impact fee dual rational nexus test came around for decades.
yeah, for
I
decades.
think they just codified in the
It
statute.
did, and it made everybody a lot more aware and put
Yeah.
everybody a lot more on notice. So, you know,
So
they
you were
cleaned up
spending
their
on
act a
other
little. So
stuff.
I don't think the impact fee issue is something that we need to spend a lot more time on because I think they got a handle on that, okay? But let's get to talk about so I don't think, actually, we dropped it off of our reporting because they're taken care of. So let's get on to the next one, which is the important one for today, at any rate. Okay, so what does this mean?
So this here is just a detail of the, I would say, well, we're already in April now, but the previous month or so of, I guess you could call them breaks or issues that we've had to address, complaints if you will. So it's just detailed locations where we had some break or leak, the estimated amount, and of course whether or not a overflow report was issued on it. So that's February, March. And I guess you get basically a general idea of how big they were,
Wait a
which
minute,
thank
is
goodness they
this
were small.
sewers or water?
This would be sewer.
Okay,
Yep, so gravity pipe blockage or an actual stoppage of flow due to a break.
so this is 2022.
Yes, basically the month of February, essentially the month of February,
Okay.
partially March.
Then my bad, I thought we were gonna be talking about going back to the water main breaks of 2021, which is obviously not on the agenda, it's my bad. I'm thinking that that's what we're gonna do, because we asked for that, and then we never reviewed it.
Okay.
So if you could put that on the next agenda, the water from 2021. And this is only sewer of 2022.
You know what I'd like to also see is typically, from my experience on if unaccounted for water, what that percent that is, usually it's been something like maybe 5%. But I'd be interested on what the actual unaccounted for water is, since we had a little discussion about the flowing of fire hydrants and such and everything. It's all accumulates, and it does have an impact on the utility customers because somebody's got to pay for the unaccounted for water, and it's distributed via on your domestic water use probably.
No, wait a minute, you only pay for the water you use. Who's paying for the water that gets flown out?
Well,
Who pays for
they've
that?
got to get somebody to pay for it, and my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the water that's measured at the water treatment plant and then what's used, there's a difference, unaccounted for water. Generally, a lot of water systems with a decent system, it's probably down around 5% or less.
Mhm.
And somebody's got to pay for that, so let me ask the city, how do you, I think I know, but somebody's got to pay for it, and that's got to be worked in because water was treated. And so it has to be part of the cost to the utility customers in the essence that if you have to flush it, that's part of the treatment and getting rid of the nitrification. If there's a break, that's just part of the operation, so, and you have water going through there, so it has to come back to the utility customers to pay.
So I think there's probably two, maybe three issues there. One is the unaccounted for, whether it's flushing that's planned or breakages or whatever else, versus the inflow of I&I, what's coming into the sewage system.
That's, of course, the sanitary sewer.
Yeah, because you were talking about the treatment coming in versus what's being flowing out from the treatment plants, water. So you got some issues there in terms of trying to calculate the difference between what's being treated coming in and versus what's being flown out. You mentioned earlier, what's coming out of the hydrants during flushes and so forth. There's a cost associated with it. And where do the costs come from? Of course, they come from taxes, fees, and everything that the city collects in order to operate day to day. So what is the cost? Well, the amount of water that's treated, the electricity at the plant that was used to treat that water. So if you had the desire to do the mathematics and figure out the granular level of cost for what it takes to just simply operate the water system on that essentially wasted water, that would be your cost. And yes, that is going to be borne by the tax income the city brings in.
That's in the rate then, that's
It's
in the
all-
rate.
yeah. It'll be in the rate. So, if you're gonna be flushing more or breaking more, then it's gonna cost more to run our water system. And that money does have to come from somewhere, which is why we're doing everything we can to not only comply with DEP consent orders, but to continuously improve our efficiencies at the plants. Someday have a new plant that will be more efficient, and then fix our broken pipes.
Right, the old one. Page 23 in there, I wrote an article, that's for my neighborhood association. And of course, it describes the upcoming cost in water that'll be doubling in 5 fiscal years. And then it shows the water losses, there's some attributed mention of the water losses. And then it also impacts the sewer costs, because sewer costs is based on the domestic water consumption, where you figure a certain percentage of the domestic water use is returned back into the sewer. So that's used to calculate what arrives at the Lomar plant. Of course, you have, like you mentioned, you have the I&I that's also coming back into the system, and it does its damage to the pump stations, the force mains and everything, but it also has the groundwater that's in there that's, it's got a Ventura valve thing that measures the water the sewer coming in. But again, somebody's got to pay for the treatment and disposal of it, and that's got to be predicated on the water usage that's recorded in your domestic meters.
Maybe we could just start by finding out what's the percentage of loss. You talked about 5% or something.
Well, that's just a typical number that's normally in a lot of old systems where they have leaks and there's not detected. But
I guess, Ralph, I'm not saying at this point what's the value in determining what this cost is, because is that what you're asking?
no, I'm not asking, I'm just stating that somebody has to pay for the unaccounted for water, whether it's 5%
We
or
pay for
10%.
Well,
we do.
The bottom line is we always pay, because
So,
when Santex.
But I like knowing how much water is lost. I think that's an important, I don't know, Chris, do you already have that?
Well, it would be just a calculation of what comes out of the water plants and then what is actually billed on everybody's
Okay,
bills.
so that's easy, right?
That's easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's an incentive, like if it's 10% and it should be somewhere around 5%, there's an incentive for the city to kind of say, hey, we're kind of over the average of water loss here and unaccounted for water. We need to get that down somehow, and they are by going out and looking at some of the old water mains that are leaking, that are failing, and so there is a program in place.
And this is all involved in the mapping of the water system.
Yeah.
We do not have a map of the water system.
That and better data comes from the future, if we do get advanced meters, better
Right.
data comes from
Right.
that.
But when Santec figures the rate, they figure it not on whether we used it or we lost it, they figure it on the number. I mean, if the plant is pumping out 54 MGDs a day, they base the rate on that, whether you used it or you lost it or anything, so
Because it's the cost of doing
that's how we
business.
pay for it.
That's what it's based on, the cost, right?
Right, okay, so if you lower that number from 54 to 50, the rate should go down. But
Or
it'll
at least
never
it
go
won't
down.
go up as
It
much
it
next
won't
year.
go
Or
as
won't go
much.
up as much, yeah, exactly.
Um,
All right, so that's why we wanted to take a look at the 2021 number to see how much we lost in breaks.
See what we can dig up for that.
Yeah,
I do
I'm
have a
pretty
side-
sure you had it in previous backups, and you've just updated it now.
So I do have a side note, Dr. Gassman actually helped me out with, so I'll give her credit for that. To confirm that Stantec will be including the 10-year revenue sufficiency study, information related to advanced metering and
Oh, good.
water lost with the old mechanical meters.
Okay, that'd be good to
That'd
find
be
out,
good to
just to
know.
get an idea, just get a picture, like James was saying, what actually is the difference between the water being produced and the actual, the consumption of the metered water being.
Right. Okay, it's 4:00, ladies and gentlemen. We have nobody from the public. We don't have a quorum anymore. We had a lot of good information today.
Very good.
So it was a good meeting, and I will adjourn this meeting.
Well, appreciate
Appreciate
the
all the
city
staff.
and all the fine information
Yes.
that you've confused us, you presented to us.
Two good pieces of information. Very good. Okay, thank you all.